Hey everyone, Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano Fundamentals, and the Spanish translation Tocando Solo Jazz Piano. And actually today we're going to take a little look inside Playing Solo Jazz Piano. And people often ask, where do I get started with solo jazz piano? It's overwhelming. Different artists play so differently. There's so many techniques. There's 20 different chapters in my book, all with like way too many techniques. And whereas my book starts with stride piano is difficult, just pianistically, and it's not really where I would recommend starting. A really good place to start is with shell voicings. And shell voicings, and here I'll show you some of the pages from the book if you're following along at home. We're on page 35. So shell voicings are voicings in which we're going to play the root of the chord plus at least one, often two, of what we call the essential tones, the third and the seventh. So a shell voicing might look like this for C minor. I might play C, E flat, and B flat, the root, the third, and the seventh, all in one hand position. Or if you have bigger hands, you might play C, B flat, and E flat, all in one hand position. Similarly, if I have an F7, I might play F, A, and E flat, all in one hand position. Or I might play those same three notes, but again, spread out. And I'm gonna show you guys, don't worry, I know some of you have small hands. I'm gonna show you some tricks on how you can manage these same things with smaller hands that are actually really common in the jazz tradition. So moving on to page 36 here, what I've given you an example of 5.8, let's make this bigger, is some 2-5-1s using shell voicings. So let's look here. First, two-note shell voicings. So we have just the root and the seventh, and then just the root and the third, and then just the root and the seventh again. These are great things to practice. Okay, but what if you can't reach that 10th? I've got 3 options for you. The first one, well, I've got 4 options for you. You know what? Bonus option today. Bonus option dance, bonus option dance. Okay, the first one is, I'm always a fan of doing a little roll. And you can either do it without pedal, and we'll still get that bass in our ear, or you can do it with a little bit of pedal. You gotta be pretty quick with the pedal, but it's definitely doable. So that's option 1, roll. Option 2 is play the bottom note an octave up, so you still have the root and the third. It's just not quite as spread out. Okay, roll, number 1, octave up, number 2. Option 3 is you can play the 5th on bottom instead of the root. And you hear pianists actually doing this all the time. Option 3, no, that was option 3. Option 4 is that you could do a tritone substitution, and you could play the root of the tritone sub, a B natural. In which case that A you might think of now as the 7th of a B7. And we're gonna see these 4 options are gonna sound even better when we get to 3-note shell voicings. But this is the basic idea of 2-note shell voicings. You could also start with the 3rd instead of the 7th. Okay. For these tenths, you have all of those same options. You could. Okay. And by the way, if you're wondering what's going on the rest of this page, what I'm showing you is a 2-5-1 exercise that you could kind of continuously practice. That's what's happening on this page. These 3-note shell voicings are going to sound a little bit more filled in, and I want to talk about these same options instead of playing this 10th. Let's zoom in. Okay, if that 10th with the 7th in the middle is too much for you to reach, that's very understandable. Here, it doesn't make as much sense to put the root up an octave because in that case, it's kind of in the middle of those 2 notes, if you see what I mean. It would be right there, so we're not really going to hear it. But playing the 5th here is such a nice option. So good. Or doing the tritone sub and playing a B is a really nice option. Hear this harmony really clearly now that we have 3 notes in. But you definitely also could anticipate this note and tie it in. I don't know what this symbol is that I made. This is very common. I'm going to talk in a second about how pianists often hold some notes and let others go as they're using these shell voicings. And of course, we could do the opposite thing with these. Man, I really can't reach that B flats, major 7. But my trick there, some of you might have caught it, is that if I add the 9th, then I can really flatten out my thumb, and I can kind of reach it. Because now I'm hitting both the C and the D with my thumb. I might do there is I might just play the bottom 2 notes. You know, sure, it would be better to hear the resolution, but sometimes you're not going to do that. We're all just people trying to make it work. Okay, so let me show you how this would work, let's say for Autumn Leaves. Cool, I don't think I need that iPad anymore, so I'll do just the left hand first. Let me play it with 2-note shells. So there, what did I do? I started with the major 7th and chromatically went down to the 6th. Or if I was going to do it with 3-note shells, I can't reach 3 notes there. With both hands, I'll play it with the 2-note shells. Same thing using some 3-note shells. Choosing my comping rhythms there, I'm simply comping like I would if I were accompanying a soloist in a band. And, you know, for me, I've said this many times on the channel before, I'm thinking of jabbing like a boxer. I want it to be unexpected. I want it to be mostly short. I want it to be accented, but at some different levels. So I'm trying to almost throw myself off, be playing in time, but not necessarily keeping a consistent rhythm. Now, when I hear pianists actually doing these shell voicings, and Bill Evans and Barry Harris are two people who come to mind who do these beautifully. Mulgrew Miller is another one. Just about every pianist uses this to some degree. One of the things that I notice is that they're frequently holding a note. Usually it's not the bass note. Usually it's some of the guide tone lines. So maybe it would be... Yes, it would usually be in the thumb. That's going to be the easiest one to hold. Texture, and it can give it the sense of a pad or having, a moving line going through some of them. Speaking of moving lines, you notice that I was using some moving lines as I played my shell voicing. So for example, I used on my G minor, I went from the major 7th to the minor 7th to the 6th. Many other possible moving lines, something that you might have caught me doing, moving from C minor to F7 is, and here I didn't exactly start with a shell voicing. This is the 5th that's moving up to the sharp 5, that's moving up to this A, which becomes the 3rd of F7. So it's pretty neat. This one motion gets me from C minor to F7. And I could either stay in this position or I could pivot down and actually play that F bass note. Or I guess I could do the tritone sub. Moving from the B flat major to the E flat major, I could create a little line going from the major 7th, the A natural, to A flat, the dominant 7th. That resolves to the 3rd of the E flat 7th. So this is all to say that, as you look at these shell voicings, they don't have to be just single entities. Excuse me. They don't just have to be single entities. Oh, I'm playing the root 3rd and 7th here. I'm playing the root 3rd and 7th here. But they, like any other part of music, they're going to be part of this other tapestry. Lastly, I want to present these shell voicings in the context of what I consider are 3 voicing positions. So first voicing position would be our kind of bass or our lower expression of the chord. And here I think about actually being kind of in our bass range, maybe around the 2nd lowest C of the piano. And only open or large intervals are going to sound good. So a 5th, maybe a 7th, or a 10th is large enough that it will sound good, even though it's a consonant sounding interval. Mostly only 2-note chords in the bass range. In the mid-range, this is where we're going to have our shell voicing. So we're trying to get a little bit of a bass note, but also our essential tones. And the bass might not be as low because we're trying to grab our essential tones as well. And then we have our rootless voicings range, which is usually around middle C, usually dipping a little bit below, where we don't really want the root of the chord because we're getting too high. So in my book, I talk about the left-hand shuttle going between the bass range and the rootless voicing range. But also, then this shell voicing forms kind of the middle ground. And we can use these 3 different positions and the knowledge that there are these 3 different positions which each function a little bit differently to create this tapestry where we have 3 different textures going on. So for example, I could shuttle between bass and rootless voicings. Oops, sorry. And then play shells. Shells, rootless, bass, rootless, shell. So I'm moving, hopefully, on a good day, I'm moving smoothly between those 3 different ranges of voicings, each with a different formula for how we're going to find it and a different intent. All right, so if you enjoyed that, you know what you would enjoy? The book, Playing Solo Jazz Piano. But you might also enjoy Jazz Piano Fundamentals. And if you're a Spanish speaker, you probably didn't understand any of this, but you would enjoy Tocando Solo Jazz Piano. All right, everybody, thanks a lot. Stick around, and there'll be a lot more good stuff coming on this channel. Talk to you soon.